Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hopefully, you can see and hear us okay, depending on which Facebook group you are watching on. Can you give us hello, a like, a thumbs up, a love, whatever you're feeling. But most importantly, let us know that you can see and hear us okay. Today, I'm joined by Matt Wright. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well. Just a bit warm, that's all. We're us
I
Brits are
know.
not used to this
I
weather.
know. Well, for those of you, if you are listening to this on the podcast a bit later on in a couple of days or something, and you're listening to the replay, you won't be able to get the visual representation of the hotness here. I've got an 80s movie moment. My hair is blowing in the wind because I am literally so hot. The office fan has come out, and it is needed. It's like, I mean, it's down south. It's a lot. How hot is it where you are actually?
29 right now.
29. Yeah, I think it's about that here, but generally on the south coast, which is where I'm based, it generally feels a lot cooler anyway. Let's have a look. Who's here? Nobody's. I can't see anyone's names. I'm going to need to look it up. I got too excited on the intro there, and I forgot what I was doing. So let me look up who has joined us. Let's have a look. Oh, it's Philip. Hi, Phil. Hope you're well. And I think the other guys are watching via the other group, which I'm not logged into. So whoever you are, hello, hello, hello. I don't imagine it's going to be. Oh, I don't know. There's quite a few people jumping on. I said to Matt beforehand, I didn't think it was going to be that busy today because surely everyone's either, sunning themselves somewhere.
Yeah, but maybe it's one of them days where it's too hot to do anything else other than listen to us on Facebook.
Yes, absolutely. So from my point of view, I literally spent, I had literally the most worst starts of the week because I thought, oh, I'm just going to, it was half term, just going to smash the week and everything like that. And then I started literally having the worst week by my son needed to go to A&E. I won't go into the particulars as why yesterday. And can anyone imagine how long the wait was? Matt, so don't you guess. Let's just I'd love to know how long people, well, unless you've been to an A&E recently, I'd love for anyone to know. And this was like Monday morning. It wasn't like drunk tank Friday night or anything like that whatsoever. I was literally shocked when I came down. So we got 6 hours. And any advances on 6 hours? Anyone?
Hint, it's longer.
Pardon?
Hint, it's longer than 6 hours.
Longer than 6 hours. He's still there. Yeah, he is. I just left him there. I thought, I've got never mind the buy box to do, got to think of my priorities. Yeah. I'll tell you guys. So we walked in at 9 o'clock yesterday morning and the wait was 12 hours to see a doctor. 12 hours to see a doctor. Now I'm very fortunate because I can't, well, she's not watching and no one who will listen or watch will care. Now I'm really fortunate because I have a friend that works in the departments really high up in the department. So she managed to fast track us a little bit, but we were still there for 8 hours. And it's one of those things. It's just sort of like, it's crazy. And then I had to go back to the doctors today and then it's really hot. So it's one of those weeks where I'm really quite fortunate that I run a majority of business where it's quite passive, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
One of those times in the week where, it pays off that you've got a passive income and you don't have to work. Well, nothing's truly 100% passive, obviously. But, if you lose a few days here or there, due to illness or, incidents like that, then, it's not the end of the world, essentially. So, yeah, always practicing my gratitude when it comes to that, being able to do it. But how are those? How's the weather affecting everyone, guys? We're going to talk about meltables a bit. But
that will be very melted, any meltables.
Yes. Well, I did a post last week where I said about the fact that, we don't look at the dates in the UK. We look at, we look at temperature more than anything else. So what's really interesting is for those of you that don't sell in the US here, Meltables policy runs from 15th of May to like 15th of October, is it? Something like that. And it is Amazon terms of service, but it's treated more as a guideline. Okay, so Amazon gives you the opportunity to be able to protect your goods if you're going to send in meltables during that period of time. Because depending on where your goods go and depending on what time, how it is in the summer, it really, sometimes we have cool summers, sometimes we have hot summers. But in America, the meltables period of time is actually mandatory. Okay, so they will block you sending in the meltable goods during, it's the same date period. I think it might be a couple of weeks difference, something like that, but it's around the same day. But it is an attribute that is mandatory to fill in when you list a product on Amazon.com. So if your product is designated meltable, so even if you get around it by not putting it as meltable, what tends to happen if it gets picked up on like voice of the customer that it's meltable or something like that, it will be flagged as meltable. So you cannot physically send them in. So FBM is the only opportunity. And of course, if you are not based at that location, then you just have to stop selling those goods in that period of time. But what always makes me laugh about America is, although they have the mandatory meltable goods period, is it's always hot somewhere in America, always, no matter, what time of year. But I suppose the only difference is I'm talking about the southern states, Texas, Florida, Georgia, all those type of states that are hot all year round, but presumably they're probably better set up. I'd imagine they have air conditioned fulfillment centers and things like that, whereas they don't here.
That's the thing, isn't it, though? Because we were discussing last night. I was like, oh, we should get an aircon unit. And then it's like, yeah, but it's like 2 weeks a year, isn't it? That it's too hot.
Well, we have air conditioning, and not throughout the house, just in the bedroom. And it was only until this year we actually didn't have it on all year round because of the electric costs and things like that. So I actually have aircon on all year round. I'm one of those weirdos. I just love my bedroom to be ice cold and then wrap up. I know I'm a weirdo. I know I am. You have
your aircon on in January?
Yeah. Well, I didn't this year.
Revelation for today.
Yeah, because of the cost of electric. We didn't have it on this year, but with the electric cost going back down, we'll have the aircon on all year round. Yes, I know I'm a weirdo. When I say it out loud, to me it sounds really normal, but then when I say it out loud, I even recognize how much of a weirdo I am. For that type of thing. I just like being cold. Just love being cold anyway. Cindy says, with the Beyonce hair flowing. Yeah, like I said, I was doing my best kind of Top Gun kind of moment, 80s movie, but yeah, it is literally because of the fan flowing. But let me know, guys, how are sales being impacted at the moment? We're not seeing any impact from our point of view. Matt, I know you've spoken about it. You have a very unseasonal business, though, don't you?
Yeah, very unseasonal, but there's no impact. Sales are so far performing very well this month. Best, actually, I think we're on for our best. If it carries on, we'll be on for our best month.
It's crazy. Do you know what? I'm really seeing the difference between Cindy says sales are slow. Hopefully that's going to turn around on the conversation that we had yesterday. But I'm seeing a real mixed bag at the moment. Either I'm seeing people like, like it's rubbish, or I'm seeing people having the best sales that they've ever had. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be, and I know a few people will probably comment on this and say, "Oh no, we're okay at the moment." But literally, I think it comes down to diversification. I think the more people that are diversifying into, extending their business in different areas, albeit marketplace, type of products that they're selling, bundles, Europe, US, diversification into different platforms, that type of thing. It is the guys that are diversifying that seem to be, and the ones that are in control of their own fate, essentially, and not reliant on, Amazon to just make those sales for you, ultimately.
Yeah, completely agree. We're very diversified onto a number of platforms, and we're looking to have more platforms all the time. So it's that helps definitely. But it's Amazon that seems to be performing really strongly for us. eBay is quite quiet, actually. To be fair, some of the other platforms are doing quite well. The website's doing quite well, and OnBuy is doing quite well for us as well at the moment. I know not a lot of people talk about OnBuy, but I think because Etsy is another marketplace that people don't tend to talk about, but depending on the type of goods you sell, you can have very good success in either of those marketplaces as long as your goods work for them. So yeah, and again, I think it's important to recognize that these kind of additional platforms are never going to be Amazon. Amazon is the one, and if you can only do one, then Amazon is the one to do. But if you can add, say, depending on the size of your business, a couple of thousand, maybe even like 20-30 grand extra, depending on your size of your business, through additional platforms, it adds up to a substantial amount of money a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil says up 35% on last year. So far this month, all toys, but I have seasonal stuff as well. Sean says sales are slower for June, July, and August. For my type of business, happens every year, so I'm used to it. Absolutely. If you are used to that seasonal trend, and we'll talk a little bit about the seasonal summer trends, a bit later on in this, when we finish off talking about meltables. But if it's something you're used to, it's not going to be as as a concern for anyone. But it's interesting what Phil said there, actually. Depending on what type of products you're selling, because Amazon goes through seasons. When I first started selling on Amazon 7 years ago, or however long ago it was, toys on the arbitrage side were, the hottest thing.
Yeah.
I've spoken about this, for ages. We didn't sell anything outside of toys for the first 2 years. We didn't need to. We didn't need to diversify because they were so good to be able to sell, and that's when you had the likes of Tesco's Direct. God, we miss them.
I love them. I miss them.
Yeah, Tesco Direct. Oh, I am a firm believer that the UK Amazon arbitrage sellers actually bankrupted.
Yeah, they all weeped a tear, didn't they, the day that Tesco said they were closing.
Exactly, but they were awful with sending stock as well. So what would happen is, they wouldn't send stock. Then you'd ring them up and say, oh, I haven't done it. Then they would send you the stock. Then the other stock would turn up. And then we were really honest about it. So I remember once we ordered like 35 boxes of like Duplo or something like that. And then a few days later, it turned up again. So we trundled all the way back to Tesco's and we said, look, you've sent us a duplicate order. How can we return these? And the woman was like, separate department, you need to get through to them. So and then someone will come and collect them. And I rang up and I was like, oh, okay, duplicate order, can someone come and collect them? And they were like, yeah, no problem, what's your address, blah 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 blah. Never showed up. You can only do so much.
Of course you can.
Essentially. So, but again, that was back in the days of the wild west of Amazon. So you wouldn't do that now. You wouldn't risk selling those as new on Amazon now because you wouldn't be able to prove that you purchased those. So if you got an inauthentic claim or something like that, could result in suspension of your account. But ultimately, what I was saying was toys, for anyone that's not selling toys at the moment, and because I know that when it came to the Declaration of Conformity, people kind of went off toys quite a lot, moved a lot into the grocery area, that type of thing. But we're actually selling quite a lot of toys at the moment. And I feel the toy market is really, really strong.
Just really random, you just said that. I bought my first lot of toys yesterday, in the first time in like 5 years.
Yeah, I just feel the toy market is super strong.
Incredible deal I got offered. And why, like you say, I noticed there was no competition listing. Like in days of old, 5 years ago, sort of maybe just before COVID, most toy listings had 20 or 30 sellers on it. This particular listing had Amazon on it and one other seller. And I was just like, this is a good deal, and there's no competition, and we can undercut Amazon massively and still make a good profit. So
yeah, absolutely. But yes, we do have the issue of declaration of conformity here and things like that. But, you know, if you can get those, but you're always given a time to be able to sell out anyway as well. And of course, the rules are don't go too deep unless you're mapped right. You know, that's
we bought 300 pieces.
Yeah, I was going to say you've probably bought the next 2 years supply. And Phil's the same. You know, when Phil buys something, he buys something for the next 5 years. You know, so when he talks about selling stuff, it's like, yeah, he probably bought that stuff like 3 years ago or something like that, which is an excellent model to have, by the way. If you know, if that is a model that you can sell, keeping stock and sitting on stock is a really, really smart kind of model to be able to have, for sure. That's what I love about Amazon. There's so much opportunity to be able to, even though we all kind of sell the same sort of stuff, it gives you the opportunity to sell it in so many different ways, which is what I love. So Dan says sales are great, all ready for Father's Day sales. Absolutely. So I haven't seen much. Do you know what? We've opted out of Father's Day this year. From a sales point of view, it is an area that we do normally sell in, but we haven't sold as you know, well, we haven't sold anything in this year actually, purely because the US side of things and the toys that have been selling so well. So we haven't done a lot of seasonal actually altogether this year, to be perfectly honest. So it's really good to hear, because I heard a lot of people that have kind of stepped into the Father's Day market. It hadn't really kicked off, but you know, so what I will say, if it hasn't kicked off by now, it's probably not going to be, but if you are targeting Father's Day specifically, it's this Sunday. So, but do not be surprised as well if you start getting a few sales now and all of a sudden it just goes mental by Friday. You know, if you are someone that's selling like a Father's Day bundle or something like that, then you can literally have 200 units in stock and you could sell them, you know, Thursday and Friday or on Saturday or something like that. The seasonal stuff, when it ticks over, it can do phenomenally well. So don't be too disheartened if it hasn't started yet. As long as you've had a few sales, you know, that's the most important thing.
If you're doing funds, you're probably doing quite well at the moment as well.
Anything seasonal. Who's selling anything seasonal? Let us know. Because if you're not, Phil, have you sold your hot tubs yet? I remember this.
That'll be a good one.
Yes. Well, do you know what? Saying that, actually, we bought a new lazy spa. I nearly messaged you, Phil. Actually, I was nearly like, because I know that Phil bought a few hot tubs last year in the great hot tub sale of 2022. And it's one of those, you know, when everyone was like selling hot tubs, like everyone was selling hot tubs. So we bought one this year and we actually got it off Amazon. We bought it from Amazon Direct because they just did this thing where it was like, buy it and, you know, they give you like, you can pay it in 12 months kind of thing. So it was like 30 odd £30 a month or something like that for a hot tub. And I was like, well, you know, let's just do it kind of thing. So Amazon, sorry, Phil says the first rule of arbitrage is we don't talk about hot tubs. Oh dear. I'm sure you would have sat on them. No pun intended there. But Phil also says I bought Nerf water guns and pools in bulk from retailers December to February and held them. Now they are 4 times, 5 times hold and wait if you have the space and also the cash flow. Absolutely. That is
space and cash is the way that thing works. And again, I think from a geographical perspective, if you're based in central London, that model can't work because you're paying so much for your storage. It's probably negating your profit. Whereas someone like myself, I'm not sure where Phil's located, but I'm in the northwest and our rents are 50-60% lower than what you would expect to pay in even where you are.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're as close to London prices as you can get because there is a distinct lack of industrial space where I'm based anyway as well, and it's an expensive area. But it's what's really interesting. We kind of skirted over this. You know, Phil is an absolute master at this type of model, but it's also what you do as well. You're a holder, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I'm a holder. But my staff think I'm a hoarder, but I'm a holder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we do. We actively hold things. We just, for me, if I've made the time and investment in something, I'm not prepared to just sell it for pence on the pound just to compete with other people. I'd far rather sit and hold it and get, 3-4 times my money back in. Sometimes you don't even have to wait that long as well. People, it just seems like a long time when you're on Amazon, but sometimes as little as like 2 or 3 months, and the price will be double what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Cindy says market them as ice baths. Absolutely. That's so hot. I bought Matt one of those for Christmas. We haven't got it out yet, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it for sure. Me and Matt are such like trend people. We're like, yeah, let's get one of those and never open it and then sell it on eBay in about 4 years time. Ben says lazy spas are poo. Get a solid one. I run the largest hot tub hire business in the Northeast. Now I'm friends with Ben on Facebook, and his business fascinates me because it's one of those businesses where I see him like moving hot tubs a lot of the time and hiring things like that, and I'm always like, how do you move a hot tub? Like, how do you move a hot tub? And now I know because I've seen how like Ben does it on Facebook, and you get like one of these inflatable things and it pops it up. I'm always fascinated by people's different types of businesses. And, it's one of those type of businesses you would think that wouldn't do that well at the moment because the cost of electric and things like that. But it absolutely, is kind of booming that industry at the moment. So it's crazy. But the reason we went for the lazy spa is because I sort of said for the cost of, my argument is for the cost of like a permanent one versus like, because we don't want a hot tub all the time. We don't want to use it in the winter or anything like that. And I sort of said, even if you buy a new lazy spa, God, this is going to sound really uneco, but even if you were to buy a new one every single year, it would still be cheaper than buying like a permanent one. That's how we wouldn't buy like a new one every year, but I'm just saying, that's how I kind of looked at it anyway. So yeah, inflatable lifting shocks, there we go. It was interesting. So Sean said, I dare not do high tickets. What if the refunds are high? Even one refund can lose you £100. It's a risk and reward thing. Definitely.
I'm going to throw a massive butt out here. The thing is that the returns of high value items are worth reselling. That's a massive but that people don't forget here. When you buy a pack of Bisto and it comes returned and opened, it goes in the bin. There is no resale value. Box of chocolates, £1,000 laptop. Someone opens it, sends it back. They don't like it. You can usually resell that for sort of 80% of its value. So the loss rate isn't that high, and usually you'll probably have, if you bought a laptop, you have a year warranty with either the retailer or the supplier, so you can send it back to them for a refund if it's faulty. So I think people get very concerned because it's high value, but actually you need not necessarily worry about as long as you've got the back end process in place, you need not worry about the value of the returns because they're usually worth reselling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting point, actually, and it's one that I hadn't considered because we've all got our cupboard of shame. A 12 pack of Bisto is kind of hard to resell, to be perfectly honest, because you can only ever have that much Bisto in your life. So if you are someone that sells predominantly a lot of grocery items or beauty items or some lower value health and personal care, that type of thing, then you're absolutely right. They are hard to shift, those type of products. But if there is some value to them, how often do you think about, like, if you get a return of a high-end beauty item as well, maybe like some Drunk Elephant stuff or something like that, you put it on eBay and it goes straight away. Even if you're covering the cost of your goods. But Matt, you're absolutely right. Something like that, people buy, if it's like a lazy spa or something, people buy them as like spare parts and things. So even if one part's not working, you should be able to sell the other one. But yeah, I think pools, you know, they tend to be pretty good. I know a few people that have sold the hot tubs. I mean, I know Phil sold them quite a lot in the past. I don't hear extortionate returns over them. I mean, I've seen the odd horror story about 2 years later where someone does a refund, you know, that type of thing, of course. But, you know, the way you've got to look at it is you've had 2 more years of sales, you know, by then. And even if you can't resell it, then it's offset. If you're making profit in your business, you can offset it against your tax, you know, all of these different types of things. So I don't particularly hear anything too bad about it.
No, and if you think about it, if there's no money making and selling hot tubs, then the hot tub manufacturers would go out of business. So,
yeah,
to me personally, selling expiry dated foods would scare me more, because you have a finite point where you have to sell it before it literally becomes worthless and you have to pay to have it disposed of. So it's funny, isn't it? Like Sean is scared of high value, whereas I'm scared of use by dates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Funny, isn't it? The perspective.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to this. So many different types of models of selling on Amazon, and it's why, you know, ultimately, and I know people talk about saturation, but no 2 sellers sell the same way, you know, or have exactly the same business. So Ben says there's a load of new hot tub people, as the people that had expensive ones worried about electric and now selling like $9,000 hot tubs for $1,000. Well, if you get any of those, let me know.
Yeah, I love one as well. We'll take one.
Yeah, if you get any of those, let us know for sure. Phil says, Matthew, actually, I found a farm. I've not been putting the questions up this week. I've been rubbish. Sorry, guys. I found a farm that will store a pallet for £2 a week. They have 1,000 plus spaces, and it's a godsend for holding and waiting. It's changed my business. There we go.
Yeah, just think, and there's probably lots of companies with spare space or farmers with barns and things, you know, that you can leverage. So yeah, it doesn't need to necessarily be, the storage might not even be a considerable cost.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Ben said, I see them all day on Marketplace and eBay. It's a buyer's market now. Definitely take that into account. So what we were initially talking about was seasonal sales and multiples and everything like that. I think it pretty much goes without saying that if you are sending multiple stuff in now, especially with the temperatures as they are and as they are going to continue, certainly for the next few weeks, then do not be surprised if you are getting high levels of complaints, refunds, returns, and also negative feedback as well. And of course, risk of listings being shut down through voice of the customer, because you tend to be able to, especially on the grocery side, not return grocery products. But when it comes to multiple items, you tend to have a risk at, you know, higher rate of negative feedback and voice of the customer. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get refunds, but it does mean that it could have some sort of impact on your account. Nothing that will probably result in any type of suspension or anything like that, but it's just worth considering. If it was me, I certainly wouldn't be replenishing anything at the moment that, you know, is meltable, which is going to be pretty much anything on the edible side of things that is confectionery. Some makeups as well will be melting in this as well at the moment. But do you know what? If I got a melted makeup and melted, I'd just stick it in the freezer for a bit. I wouldn't worry about that. But you know, some people are proper fussy.
Yeah.
First thing I do in a hot country, put all the makeup in the fridge. Top tip there.
I suppose that's it. You think, obviously everyone thinks about chocolate, but you don't think about things like makeup and other kind of liquid products could potentially go bad as well, couldn't they?
Yeah, crayons, anything with wax, lip balms, candles, confectionery.
Candles this time of year, but you know.
Well, citronella candles. Yeah, people buy a lot of candles this time of year. So it's anything you've got to remember. So it's 29 degrees today, or 28 degrees, whatever it is. I don't necessarily believe it's that in the north, but we'll take Matt's word for it. I'm joking. And you've got to imagine that those warehouses are so much hotter than than outside as well, because they are piling down with the sun on them as well, and the goods are in there for a sustained period of time, so they are gonna melt. If they're in there for a week, it's not just, oh, okay, we've had a hot day today. They're going to continue to cook until they're sold, and then they're going to sit in a Royal Mail van, and then they're going to and cook in there.
That's the dangerous part. It's not so much the warehouse, it's the transportation, sitting in the back of a UPS van. If you get in your car today, you know how hot it is. Now imagine your stock sat in the back of the car for like two days, maybe up to, then that's why it's all melting.
Yeah, absolutely. So my advice and my top tip for today is lay off it for a couple of weeks. Personally, if you do not want the ag, there will be a multitude of very attractive listings right now where you can see the competition going away, and that is because people are refraining from replenishing those type of meltable goods, or goods that could be impacted by heat. Like I said, it's not just chocolate. There's going to be a number of things that will disrupt the integrity of the product, so make sure that you are double checking if that's something that is going to be impacted by the cost of your goods, especially if you're selling some kind of high-end stuff, like I said, like makeup or stuff that could be impacted, because if you get some really posh creams and things like that, if that heats too much, then what can often happen is sometimes you'll get it and it could discolor, or it could smell differently, or something like that. And that's when when you get those kind of complaints where it's like you get an inauthentic claim or a counterfeit claim because they've claimed that it's a counterfeit product, or you get a review saying, oh, it doesn't smell like it normally does, that could be down to that. And like I said, it shouldn't be anything too much that should impact on your account health, but when Amazon is Amazoning the way that it does, why take the chance? That's what I'm a firm believer in anyway.
Yeah, completely agree.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So stay off the meltables for a bit. So who's selling in the US at the moment? Who knows what the Informed Consumers Act is? Is it causing a pain for anyone that's watching? Probably not, because the majority of you won't be selling in the US at the moment, I wouldn't have thought, but we might have some viewers that are, or some that are going to be probably watching this from a replay point of view. So just to fill everyone in, a few months ago, Amazon announced that it was complying with the US Inform Act, which was passed by Senate, I think, last year, and it's coming into effect on the 27th of June this year. Now, essentially, it's one of those acts that, there's nothing bad. It's actually for the protection of consumers. It's to help with counterfeit goods. It's to give transparency to sellers selling on marketplaces to try and get rid of counterfeits, to try and stop money laundering, to try and, stop people from getting ripped off, that type of thing. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But Amazon being Amazon, they've managed to make it incredibly complicated, as always, and literally are scaring the life out of people. So if you can imagine, if you are, and this is, I don't know how many US Amazon sellers there are, or how many sellers that sell on the US platform. It's not just based in the US, it's where the goods are being sold. So, we sell in the US. So we don't live there, but we have to kind of abide by it. And Amazon.com is becoming a more transparent marketplace. It's only in the last year that your business details were showing on Amazon.com as well, which is interesting.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and when that
in the UK, it's been since day one.
Yeah, exactly. So, we didn't have any issue with it, but that caused a big hoo-ha in the US because when that first came out, people were using like home addresses. Whereas we know here, if you're going to set up an Amazon account in the UK, use a PO box, use a business address, don't put your home address down because it's all kind of visible, that type of thing. Use an official company
address or some kind of store unit, warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their address, anything like that. Yeah.
Anything to stop, kind of Bob turning up at your address, with a refund or something like that. So, we know that in the UK, and we've known that forever because the details are visible. But that actually only happened in the US in the last year, and there was a big hoo-ha about it because people were like, wow, I can't believe my details are gonna be shown like this. Now, what the US Informed Act does, it takes it a little step further in the sense that now you have to clarify, you have to verify those details. Okay. So Amazon has a pretty stringent verification process now for new sellers anyway. If you have set up a US account, probably in the last 8 weeks, you may not have had to verify, but this is something that US sellers are going to have to do once a year moving forward. And once a year, you're going to have to re-verify your identity. So whether it be with driver's license, passport, something like that, you're going to have to re-identify your bank account. So you're going to need to put in a bank statement, within, I think it's within 90 days or something like that, your business address, your tax ID, which is your UTR details, and also you're going to have to confirm and make sure that you have an appropriate contact number to be contacted at all times. So those are generally the 5 things. There's a couple of other things as well, and each one of those has to be individually verified. And if you can imagine, as that stands at the moment, this is something that Amazon launched a couple of weeks ago. It's got to be done in exactly 2 weeks' time. So there are hundreds of thousands of people that need to go back through this verification. But the big issue is it literally put hundreds of thousands of people into your account will be deactivated. Imagine that. Imagine the carnage.
Yeah.
That caused a couple of weeks ago. Now, we actually knew it was going to happen. So from our point of view, but for, because we do things like this, we're part of Facebook communities, you hear people talking, that type of thing. So we actually knew that this was going to happen. But imagine waking up to your account that maybe you do millions of dollars on, and you get that deactivation warning, and you're asked to verify all these details. Fine, fair enough. Okay, I can accept that. But then for the first 2 weeks, nobody could put any information in because there was a glitch on the system. So that was freaking people out even more. So now we're finally at a point, about 2 weeks out, that Amazon have started, they fixed the glitch and they've started going through and verifying. So we were really fortunate. Ours was verified yesterday. So phew. That was done and that was over because, as we know, I've talked about it publicly. We've already had one suspension on that account this year, and I really don't fancy any more, from that point of view, because it is such a big ag to be able to get around it. But it's been a worrying time, and there's probably, this is going to impact a lot of people. You're going to see a lot of suspensions because there's a couple of things like, I think it was a guy called Carl who was asking in the group as well. There's a little bit of a glitch on the system as well, which is another thing. So personally, our tax ID number was logged under individual. It wouldn't allow us to change it to business. So, but we, again, I don't know if it's just a glitch. It knows we're a business entity. That's all been verified. But it was saying individual. So we were really worried. Okay, that's not going to pass verification because, we're putting business UTR details in and business identification verification, but it's under an individual entity. So surely that's going to be rejected, but it didn't. So I think that must be a glitch. So if that's something that's happening and you are not putting the details in because you're worried that it's not going to match, I think it would be better that you put them in than wait for that to change, because I can't see that changing, to be perfectly honest. So if you are one of those people that it won't allow you to click business as part of the tax ID, then it only allows, I would go ahead and submit all of your business UTR details anyway as well. And they've obviously got the business address one is the postcard. You ever done the postcard?
I've never done the postcard.
Okay, so that's fun. The postcard one is Amazon.
I'm old school. I started in 2011. And they didn't ask this kind of stuff back then.
No, they were like, "Is your name Matt?"
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in.
You're in.
Yeah, you're in. That's it. That's all it was then. But I think yeah, with regards to the business address. So what happens if you click it and your registered address, they send you a little postcard with like an ID on it. And then you have to put in that ID, but it can take up to 2 weeks for that postcard to come. So if you haven't done it already, guys, please make sure you do it because the deadline is in 2 weeks. And this isn't Amazon being Amazon. This is American law. So it has to be done by that period of time. So don't hold off, make sure you put that information in. But the reason I've talked about it is one, if anyone's listening, and like panicking, hopefully that would have helped. But I actually think this is something you're going to start seeing a lot more anyway. And this has to be done every year now. Whereas I do think we're going to start seeing more and more verifications. We're seeing it in the EU as well, right? There's always some sort of verification or something you got to tick there, right?
Yeah, there's I don't know if there's verification as so much, but there's a lot of compliance in terms of there's some new recycling legislation coming through the WEEE, waste electronic something or other. It's about basically recycling packaging and electronic products, so screens, batteries, and all that kind of stuff. So registration requirements required for that. But yeah, essentially there's a lot of legislation coming in. I have noticed in the UK, I don't know if anyone's got a business bank account, you may have asked to be re-verify all the details in the UK. There was some changes to business banking regulations again about ownership of bank accounts and things. So yeah, there's a lot of tightening up. I don't know what's prompted it. It might be dressed up as consumer protection, but I think a lot of it, particularly the banking side, came down to bounce back fraud. I think that's what kind of prompted that a little bit. And that's my inkling as to why the UK banking fraud happened, because obviously loads of people took bounce back loans and they didn't really have proper records for these people and they now can't trace them.
How crazy. Who would have thought that would have happened, eh?
I know. Who'd thought it?
Who would have thought it? I read a stat years ago. Well, it didn't happen years ago. I read a stat a while ago, or Matt Cromie told me it, or someone told me it. So apologies if it was you. That actually, for the amount that the government were not going to go after bounce back too much, because it would actually cost them more money to go after the amount of perceived fraud than it would be to write the money off.
I can imagine,
which is just ridiculous. I think they're just going after the the big ones that did like the millions and things like that. Bring back bounce back. That's what I say. Especially now with the interest rates. Wow.
Yeah, can you imagine?
God, that'd be crazy. So Sean's saying, yeah, this is interesting actually. People having problems logging in. Now I've noticed this quite a lot. So I actually think it could be connected. Seller Central's been really glitchy all week. I had it, was it yesterday or Sunday, where the figures weren't adding up. Luke's and Hayden's were two different issues. So I will, and I'm sure Luke won't mind me saying actually about this. So what Luke's was, so this is a cautionary tale actually. So what Luke's was Luke, and I know he's posted it publicly, so I don't mind saying, he had the shock of his life when he went to log into his account on Sunday. And it basically said, and I've never seen this before. So I was like, is this some sort of new suspension? He couldn't even log into his account, and it basically said your account has been closed because you have violated Amazon policy. Now, for anyone that's been suspended, you know that you can still log into your accounts. Even if you're suspended to a really long period of time, because they still like charging you for your professional seller fee. So I was helping. Yeah, exactly. Not going to lose out on that. And I was helping Luke with it, and I suddenly and I was like, this is weird. I've not seen this before. But we went on, we checked his store, everything was still live. So it clearly wasn't a suspension. But what it actually was his buyer account on Amazon had been deactivated. But he was set up on the same email address for his buyer account and his seller account. Now, Matt Cromie always bangs on about do not have them under the same email address. Not for this reason, funnily enough. So he wasn't, being wise and on from that respect. But Matt always talks about it from a linking point of view, obviously. But now it's going to be a big amount of hassle for Luke to get this sorted, because it's the same email address, so he cannot physically get into his account now because it's the same email address that's been deactivated as his seller account. So I mean, he will get it sorted, but it's just one of those things. There's gonna have to be a lot back and forth.
Yeah, it's if you can avoid the hassle, it's the time and effort and also worry to a certain extent that you now have to put into this to get it sorted, and simply, like you say, using a separate email. Most people have multiple emails anyway.
Yeah,
it's so simple and so much hassle and potential issues avoided.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are someone that whatever reason, for your buyer and seller account, make sure they are under different emails, just from a linking point of view, but most importantly from that point of view. So, because that's going to be a lot of hassle for Luke to sort out. Hayden's issue was another issue. So yeah, I just think Seller Central's been super glitchy this week. So yeah, guys, just, kind of keep an eye on it, but get ahead of that US Inform stuff. Don't be that person that thinks, oh, this is only going to take a couple of days to sort out, so I'll do it on like the 25th or something like that. Not only do you have to wait, up to 14 days for that postcard to come, but then you have to get in the queue for the verification to be checked. So, if it's something, do it now. Not tomorrow. Do it now. If you haven't done it already, do it now, because from now you risk being deactivated. And it's one of those things. This is US law, so they're not going to fanny around, and they will deactivate you. Okay. Normally I'm like, oh, they might not. They will. This is US law.
Legislation. It's the same with this. Back to this thing in Germany, the packaging registrations. Deadline's 1st of July, and they've said categorically they will close your listings. There is no ifs, no buts. That is the regulations, not Amazon being we may not. It is this is the rules, and we have to follow them because they're imposed by the authorities.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt Cromie said some of the sham is probably to stop some of the sham Chinese companies. Yeah, absolutely. And some people taking bounce back loans and getting cars with it. Absolutely. People were living their best bounce back lives. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Just while we're on the subject of EU, Matt, because for those of you that are mad and that haven't joined the Hive already, I mean, we might not even let you in now because you're that crazy, because you haven't done it already, and we don't want crazy people in the Hive. No, I'm only joking. Everybody's welcome. So on that basis, really exciting new subject. We're going to be starting from next week. Live trainings from next Tuesday. Matt, you are going to be going into covering for the next 5 or 6 weeks, something like that, how to get back into Europe. And how you can, start expanding what you're already doing. If you're not heading to the US where everyone's heading, that's the best thing to do. When you see a lot of people doing one thing, do the opposite. Yeah, do the opposite, definitely. So you are going to be running through training on how to get back into Europe. And so tell us a little bit about that. So if anyone's interested in joining.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Europe is the best not talked about opportunity on Amazon at the moment, particularly from a UK perspective. So as with anything, when the internet came along, for example, it was a massive change, and that change creates opportunity. As difficult as Brexit is, it has created opportunity because everybody is equally affected. And what it has done is it has wiped out an awful lot of competition in Europe from other UK sellers and sellers around, in the US and things, that they're not bothering to sell there anymore, or sell in the UK and things. So it's created a lot less competition. This has made it, much easier to be profitable in Europe. And I will tell you, our margins are sort of 30-40% higher in Europe than they are in the UK selling the same products. The beauty of Europe actually is the challenge. So it is difficult to sell in Europe now, which is in itself the opportunity, because if you can learn to navigate the challenges, then you've got a lot more protection, because a lot of people who don't know how to navigate the challenges, they can't fill in the customs paperwork, for example. These guys are getting wiped out and they're not able to get back into Europe. So hopefully through the training, I'm going to get a lot of people back into Europe and selling successfully. We'll be discussing the EFN, which is shipping from the UK to Europe. We'll be discussing Pan-EU, which is sending stuff directly to Europe and fulfilling it within Europe, which is the best way to go, really. But also we'll be discussing things like importing from Europe, how to buy from Europe. And there's so many opportunities as well in Europe to partner with European firms who want to sell in the UK but haven't either got the scale or can't be bothered, or just it's not part of their roadmap to get their products back into the UK. You've now got a unique position, especially if your business is located in the UK, to bring these products in and distribute them on behalf of these brands. So not only we can take you out of the arbitrage space and be working directly with brands. This is the biggest opportunity on Amazon, is to work directly with a brand as effectively their distributor or their official partner. And Brexit and Europe makes a great reason to do that, because they want to sell in the UK, but it's not worth their time and effort. But it may well be for you to simply bring their stuff in, because you've got everything set up already. So yeah, honestly, I think it's the biggest opportunity that nobody's talking about right now, is getting back into the EU.
Absolutely. I reckon you could develop some sort of cash cow just by approaching businesses and show, through this training, and showing them how to sell in Europe as well. If you wanted to, there is because nobody would want to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I partnered with a brand a few weeks ago, and we are buying in their products, and we're their exclusive UK distributor, because they only have EU distribution that used to cover the UK, but now it doesn't. So we're now their official UK partner. So we're buying their products and reselling them on Amazon on an exclusive basis. We've got access to their brand registry, so nobody else can sell these products, because we've created that agreement. And I bet there is thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of small EU firms that want to sell in the UK but are struggling. And that can be you could create an entirely new business just out of that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So really looking forward to that. We do not sell in Europe ourselves at the moment at all. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like Cindy says, I'm so excited about this training. I joined Amazon just as we left Brexit, so didn't ever sell in Europe. And again, I remember those good old days of selling toys in Germany, that lovely German market, that we're all missing out on. Second biggest Amazon platform in the world. Most people assume
Germany.
It's the UK. It's not.
Germany, and you've got access to the entirety of Europe now through leverage, and particularly Pan-EU. If you can get established in Germany, you can sell in the German market, and you can fulfill to the entirety of Europe, which is 300 million consumers.
And actually, as well, one thing worth saying, because a lot of people don't do this, because like you say, the opportunity arises in the setup, because that's where the low, people don't, because it's a lot of hassle to do it. But we've also got some experts coming in to do some guest sessions as well.
And we've got some exclusive discounts as well, because I'll be transparent, there is a cost of getting back into Europe, which is again another barrier to entry. But we've negotiated some, because obviously you have to file tax compliance and things. Now we're not part of the EU. We've got an exclusive deal with a firm who's going to do the registration for the first year for free. So that's saving you guys £1,000 straight off the bat. If you want to join the Hive, you'll get access to that. So that covers your membership just by getting that exclusive offer. So yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I'm working hard behind the scenes,
You have been working hard. Oh my God. Amazing. Did you hear that, guys? Did you hear that? Normally costs £1,000. You guys, Hive members, are going to get it for free. Yeah. So, it pretty much costs £1,000 to join the Hive for a year. No brainer here, guys. No brainer. So yeah, that's going to be amazing. Really looking forward to that. So Matt has put up the link to join. It's £99 per month plus flat, flat that you can cancel at any time, so it's something that you don't have to be a permanent member. But the way I will say, if judge if it's for you. To be perfectly honest, there's a lot of good things people say about the Hive. You can search it in this group, other groups, people giving honest testimonials about it. But if it's not for you, it's not for you. And you know what? It's only cost you 1 month to find out. That's the way, that's, judge it for yourself. Try it, see if you like it. But, I will warn you, once you join, not a lot of people leave. So
No.
it's like a horror movie. Once you join, you're not leaving. No, I'm only joking. But yeah, if it's not for you, absolutely, try it, see if it's for you. So that's really exciting. And not only that as well, at the same time, I'm covering stuff on bundles. I've got the new reseller blueprint that's going to be happening in July as well. So that is going to blow arbitrage out of the water. It's a brand new way of selling arbitrage, getting back in control for people, and for people that are frustrated by price tanking and things like that. So that's definitely going to be something that's cool. And then we talk about cool things. Like tonight we've got our Hive live session. When I say cool things, this is where I show myself to be a geek. So like tonight's session, just for an example, is I'm going to go through live examples and show people how to write a title on Amazon that is going to avoid getting IP claims. There's a specific way that Amazon wants it done. So, I'm really excited about that. I love teaching that kind of stuff. So it's definitely something. And like I said, if you want to sell on Amazon, especially if you want to create your own opportunities, this is the stuff that you need to sell. Yep. So yeah, I've just realized again, said it out loud, what a geek I sound. Like, yeah, let's get really excited about writing titles in the right way on Amazon. But yeah, those are the things we talk about. So don't just think it's about bundles. We started off on bundles, but obviously now we're going to be covering that. And plus we got Johnny as well. So, he's been doing his sourcing sessions, Sunday sourcing sessions as well. So there's plenty for everyone for sure. So here we go. Cindy says, it's a lie. We can never leave once you realize how much you learn.
Yeah,
that. Absolutely. We'll keep you. Exactly. We'll, we won't let you leave. So, well, as always, the hour has gone quickly. I think that's about it for today. Thanks for everyone that's joined us and contributed. Been interesting chat today, talking about the US Inform Act. Hot stuff, as in meltables, but also some of the things that we're going to be covering in the Hive as well. So I'm going to be back next week, and Thomas Parkinson is going to be joining us. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about all things US, because as you may or may know, Thomas did a big announcement a few weeks ago, which surprised a lot of people. And I told him he's got to come on and explain himself and why he did it. But no, we're going to come on. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about selling in the US, some of the reasons why he's chosen to, move all of his business to the US. And for anyone that knows Thomas, obviously that's going to be a big wealth of information, lots of gold nugget alerts for sure. When someone like Thomas talks, you should listen. It's as simple as that. I promise I'll let him get an edge and get yeah, definitely, for sure. So he's going to be joining me next week at 1 o'clock. So next Tuesday, the 20th. So make sure you join us for that. Matt, thanks for joining. I shall let you get back to the northern sun. For anyone that is part of the Hive, I will see you, and Matt will see you at 7 o'clock tonight. And other than that, I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.